What's up guys, my name is Ace, and a couple things that I noticed right away while looking at the attachments in the Black Ops 6 beta is the fact that most, if not all, guns seem to have a rapid fire attachment in the fire mod section. And with that, since we currently don't have access to advanced stats, all we can see are pros and cons. You can see the pros for it are an increased fire rate, and the cons are non-existent. There is no apparent downside whatsoever to using rapid fire. And as a result, that immediately raises the question, is rapid fire going to be overpowered? Is it going to be a crutch attachment in the game? Because if you have an attachment that literally just improves your time to kill potential with no downside whatsoever attached to it, that seems like the type of thing that would be a no-brainer, and if you're not using it, you'd be doing something wrong. So let's first have a look at that upside to our time to kill potential. I did mention this in yesterday's video talking about time to kill, but as of right now, I just have rapid fire unlocked on the Jackal PDW. And with this gun, we get a roughly 7 to 7.5% improvement to our rate of fire when using rapid fire on that gun, which takes our time to kill potential from 264 milliseconds down to 245 milliseconds. So there's definitely a noticeable improvement there to your time to kill potential when using rapid fire. And again, if there really are no downsides to this, that seems like it would be an absolute no-brainer of an attachment. However, thankfully, there are actually some cons attached to this, or one key con attached to this, that isn't mentioned in the cons section for rapid fire, and this is an increase to recoil. And let's have a look at the recoil comparison here, both without as well as with rapid fire on the Jackal PDW. And as we can see here, looking at them side by side, there is a very clear difference in the amount of recoil you experience. In fact, there's a roughly 35% higher total magnitude of both vertical and horizontal recoil when using rapid fire compared to not using rapid fire on this gun. That's actually a very considerable recoil increase. So it's interesting that it wasn't in the cons section. And you might be thinking, well, it's not in the cons section because it doesn't actually increase the recoil values. It's just that we have less time to recenter between each shot since we're firing the gun faster, and maybe that's why we're seeing a higher total magnitude. And while I'm sure that comes into a play at least to a degree, I also did single shot recoil tests, went frame by frame, and found just how much recoil we get with one single bullet. So that recenter isn't coming into play here for like multiple shots fired. And in this case, I found the difference in magnitude of recoil after several tests. I did more than just one test here. And it appears we're seeing roughly 10% more recoil per shot when using rapid fire on the Jackal PDW. So as far as I can tell at least here, this recoil increase isn't just due to the fact that we have a faster rate of fire. This attachment actually seems to increase the recoil values themselves. And honestly, that was a relief to see because this attachment totally would become a crutch if it didn't have something like this as a downside. And based on what I'm seeing here so far, at least on the Jackal, again, we're in the beta build of the game. I don't have access to as many testing methods as I would with custom games in the full build. But at least based on what I'm seeing here so far, this seems to be a reasonable downside for that roughly 7% improvement to rate of fire. There are definitely some pros and cons there, and I wouldn't necessarily say that you need rapid fire on this to compete, and if anything, you might feel better off without rapid fire since you'll be hitting more shots more often. I'm hoping we can just chalk this up to the fact that it's the beta build of the game, and once we get the full build with advanced stats, which are confirmed to be coming by the way, they're just not currently available in the beta, I'm hoping things like this won't be slipping through the cracks and we will actually see the appropriate pros and cons attached. But it also raises the question, what other attachments are there currently in the beta that have some hidden upsides or downsides attached to them, if any? In either case, since we're on the topic of improving our time to kill with attachments, there is one more attachment I want to look at here just to share some information for you guys, and this is the CHF barrel, or what I just call the high caliber barrel. This is the one that boosts your headshot damage. And again, just a reminder here, if you guys haven't been keeping up with my videos, in the game state currently, in the beta, none of the SMGs or assault rifles or the marksman rifle, none of them see any benefit to the number of shots to kill with headshots mixed into the equation. Even if you're hitting nothing but headshots, you're going to be killing in the exact same number of shots as you would if you were shooting them in the body, unless you're using this headshot barrel. So let's take a deeper look at that one, because in this case, they do actually properly display the cons, and it does mention that you will see increased recoil when using this barrel. But before we have a look at that increased recoil, let's talk about the headshot damage multipliers here that I was able to test. Keeping in mind, it's not exactly easy to be testing damage values in a beta, but I did manage to test this on the Jackal PDW at least. Without this barrel, our headshot multiplier is just 1.1, meaning we're dealing 29 damage to the body or 31 damage to the head up close. So in both of those cases, it's just going to be a 4-shot kill. whereas with this CHF barrel on the Jackal, it's now a 1.2 times multiplier, keeping in mind COD always rounds down as well with their damage values whenever you do use a multiplier, and this gives us a headshot damage of 34. What this means is we can reduce this down to a 3-shot kill, but literally every single bullet needs to hit their head, and you have to be using this barrel. And that also only applies in the maximum damage range. So benefits-wise, at least on the Jackal, I would say this is probably not going to be worth it. Although I'm sure for many other guns, perhaps with assault rifles for instance, you're going to be seeing better benefits to your headshot multiplier where maybe it only takes you 1 or 2 headshots mixed in to reduce the number of shots to kill. But of course, that's all the stuff we'll be looking at much deeper once we get into the launch of the game, where I can do a lot more detailed testing. But next up, let's have a look at that con when using the CHF barrel, again on the Jackal PDW. It's not like anybody's using any other gun anyway at this point. As you can see here, there is definitely a higher magnitude of vertical recoil, and based on my testing, for an entire 30-round magazine, we're seeing a roughly 20% increase to the total magnitude of recoil we experience when using this barrel, whereas our horizontal recoil doesn't really seem to be changed at all here, and that does line up with what the cons are stating. It only states that it's harming our vertical recoil control. So the recoil downsides on this actually aren't nearly as bad as what we see with the rapid fire attachment, since that's harming both vertical and horizontal, and it's harming those to a much larger degree. In fact, let's throw a graphic together here and look at them all side by side. You can see out of all of them, rapid fire gives you the worst recoil control, whereas the CHF barrel is just a little bit worse than the base recoil. And I know what you guys are thinking right now. What if you combine those attachments, rapid fire and the CHF barrel? Well, in this case, it goes completely off my recoil testing spot here, so I can't really show you the pattern itself, but you guys can just see how much more recoil there is. There is significantly more recoil. So if you stack these two attachments together, you're going to have a significantly harder time hitting your shots. And overall, I was really relieved to see these results. Like I said, it was definitely concerning when I first saw these attachments that clearly have the potential to improve your time to kill. As of right now, based on what I'm seeing, it appears the downsides are pretty appropriate here. Maybe we will find some specific issues with certain guns down the road, but based on what I'm seeing, I am quite happy to see how much of a recoil increase we're getting when using these, especially with rapid fire. And I do think that keeps these in check nicely, and I honestly don't see these attachments being complete crutches based on what I'm seeing here today. Now, of course, these are just my opinions based on the testing that I've done, as well as some gameplay experience. I also tried playing around with both of these attachments, and it really feels they're kept in check nicely. But of course, I do want to hear from you guys in those comments down below. How are you feeling about the rapid fire attachment and the CHF barrel in Black Ops 6? As well as how they're currently balanced. Do you guys think that there are appropriate trade-offs here to that improved time to kill potential? Or maybe not so much. Do you guys think one of these two attachments, or maybe both, will end up being complete crutches once things start to settle in with Black Ops 6? Just let me know all of the thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.